Call of Duty Black Ops 7 has launched, which means it is now camo grind season, which is what I've spent my entire weekend doing. I've been grinding, getting the Genesis Camo for the campaign. I haven't officially unlocked it yet. I've got about 18 Chroma Flux weapons. You need 30 and then it'll automatically unlock Genesis. But I've learned a lot through the weekend and I'm here to share some of that knowledge with you. I'm not here to say these are the best or the fastest strategies or anything like that. It's just what helped me, so maybe it can help you. So we're going to go over some low-level strats, some high-level strats for every single camo category in the game. So if this helps you out, leave a comment down below. Also, if you have any better strats, make sure you leave those in the comments. Let's help each other grow and grind camos. Also, as a reminder, make sure you take your camo grind as fast or slow as you want it. This is your game. Don't let anybody say that you're doing anything wrong by being less efficient or anything like that. Just have fun. And with that being said, let's get into the military camo strat. Starting with the low-level strat, what I did here was I started out around the car factory area, because when you spawn in, usually when you're low level, you can just immediately head left and you're heading directly towards the car factory. It's down in sort of like the bottom right side of the map. There's a ton of enemies there all along the buildings and inside the buildings there. And then after you clear that out, you can fly down to where this gas station area is. Usually there's a prime enemy activity down here. Really easy to kill real quick, get you some combat rating, and then you basically just loop that. You go from the gas station then back up to car factory, and usually a good chunk of the enemies will have respawned, and you just keep on going back and forth for all your military camos. Another low level spot that I like a lot is Cliff Town. I do a ton of challenges here. There's so many enemies densely packed into this area. It makes it really easy to get all of your headshots pretty fast, as long as you're like the only person there. If there's other people there, maybe go check out the car factory strat, but you have options. I usually did this until my combat rating was around like 12 to 15, and then I moved into tier 2. And in tier 2, the Coliseum is a really good spot where a lot of enemies spawn, so you can get your headshots there pretty quickly. But the best strat that I found is going to be a high level strat. You have to be comfortable being in tier 3, so I wouldn't even think about going in there until your combat rating is around 30, and even then is pushing it, because elites spawn out there and those elites can be really frustrating to deal with. So maybe around like 35 to 40 is probably closer to when I would end up going out here. But what you want to do is you want to go into tier 3, and you want to just hang out around the outskirts of tier 3 out here, and it will just endlessly spawn hordes and hordes of zombies. So you just go all the way up and then all the way back down, just getting your headshots. Your progression will go so fast out here. I did see that Detonated tweeted out that it's a good place to farm XP as well, which is true, but so you might have a little competition out there now. It was by far the fastest way to get headshots done for your military camos. Now let's talk about some special camo strats. There are 4 specifically that I want to talk about, starting with destroy 25 guild dogs, sentry turrets, or drones. For this one, you just want to find a surveillance control activity. The icon looks like a drone, and you aggro the drone and you just stand there looking into the sky, and the main drone will spawn smaller drones right above your head. So you just want to kill those smaller drones until the camo pops, and then you can either destroy the main drone or just run away, whatever works. A tad bit boring, but it is a way to get all 25 of those kills really fast, because otherwise you need to go find dogs and turrets. And I've only ever seen turrets at checkpoints and command centers, and those are going to be more difficult places, so this is just the easiest way to get those drone kills for that challenge. Next is get 25 kills shortly after sliding, diving, or wall jumping. For me and my squad, it was bugged. It might not be bugged by the time you're watching this, but currently it only works with wall jumping. And so for that, I just went to Cliff Town. There's a ton of walls there, so it was just really easy. As soon as you find an enemy, there's already a wall there. Just jump off of it and then kill them. But if this gets past and you can slide and dive, then I would just stick to what you were already doing for the military camo strats and just incorporate slides and dives, obviously. Next is probably the special camo that was the most annoying to do, at least for me. It was eliminate 50 guild tech enemies. Guild tech enemies consist of the drones, the robots, rhinos. It doesn't count dogs though. Pretty much any robotic enemy that isn't a dog, because I guess dogs technically count as kill streaks, even though rhinos are kill streaks too, but those counted towards the guild tech enemies. But for this, I again just went to Cliff Town. I feel like it was the best location to do this, especially if you're a low level. If you're high enough to take on tier 4, there's a ton of robot enemies where I'm going to show you to do elite kills at. But for most people, want to hang out in Cliff Town, because there's easily like 8 to 12 bots that will respawn really regularly. But if that's crowded or they're not respawning, you can look around the map for grid takedown activities. These will usually spawn 6 to 8 bots, plus 2 dropships come in, and each one of those has a chance to drop 2 each. so you could have an additional 4 total bots per activity you do. There's also the surprise shipment activity, and that can either spawn 4 of the regular robots, 1 dog, or a rhino. And like I said, the rhino and the 4 bots will count. The dog won't, unfortunately, but those are also consistent sources of progress. And for the final special camo I want to talk about, there's get 10 kills without reloading 10 times. The reason I want to talk about this is because currently it's bugged like it was in MWZ, where when you replate, it also fails the challenge. So make sure you don't reload or replate while you're going for this challenge. All right, next let's hop into some molten gold camo. The best place for special enemies that we found is right outside of the Coliseum. There's up to 16 spawn points, I believe. If you're lucky, sometimes you'll roll up there and every single one of them is spawned and you can just go crazy, and then you have to wait for them to respawn. But most of the time when you go there, there'll probably be anywhere from 6 to 8 that are up, and then you just have to sit and wait for them to respawn. If you're sitting and waiting for a while and they're not respawning, there's a cliff that leads up to one of the zombie maps. Actually, if you want to go over to that area and look, it's really cool. It's west of the Coliseum, but you can just fly up there and then fly back down and everything should respawn. Also, if you're in tier 3 doing that zombie strat, while you're running up and down the edge, it'll also be spawning doppelgas manglers and mimics, as well as disciples. But the doppelgas manglers and mimics, those will count for special progress, and then the disciples will count as elite progress, which you'll need for Chroma Flux, but we'll get there. So those are the best ways that I found to get specials for the molten gold camo. Next, Moonstone, it's just get 100 kills in tier 3. You already know, just go to the same spot you have been doing in tier 3 for the headshots and all that kind of stuff, because at this point in the camo grind, chances are you're probably going to have a high level character, a max level character, because I had 2 that were max level at this point. But if you don't have a max level character, you can just go to Clifftown or Car Factory or the Coliseum. Those will all work depending on what your power level is, but Moonstone is by far the easiest one here. Finally, we have Chroma Flux. There are 2 strats that I have, one of which that works really well and one of them that works really well, but is very dangerous. So let's start with the one that works really well. It's the same tier 3 zone that we've been doing, except you're only stopping and looking for the disciple spawns, because once you get far enough away, the mobs will despawn. So you don't have to wipe the mob out just so it'll respawn later. You can just leave and they'll despawn. But you just fly up and down, fly sort of low to the ground so you can make sure that they're actually spawning. And then just wait for a disciple to spawn and kill it. And then while you're doing that, you can also look on the map for prime target activities. These also have a chance to spawn an elite. They can also spawn a special, so if you're struggling with specials, you can do that too. But they can also spawn elites, so make sure you check those if you're close by. And also keep a lookout on your minimap when you're like running between zones or between activities, because random human elites can spawn in random places. They'll look like a normal enemy, but they'll have a different name. Like I believe the marksmans will be called phantom marksmans, for example. But the most efficient and most dangerous strat is a tier 4 farm spot. It is very risky if you're solo, because if you go down, you lose your character. That's it. I would only go here if you're maxed out and you're able to clear a command center in tier 4. But once you get here, there is a command center already here, so you can just fly straight to that command center, clear it out, get your legendary upgrades, which I'll give some upgrade tips in just a second, but get your legendary upgrade, and then you want to just fly around these rooftops, keeping an eye on your mini map and also your big map, because you'll see elites spawning in this zone really frequently. They also can despawn very fast, but if your RNG is good enough, you can get 5, 6, 7 weapons done in a single game, which is insane. But like I said, it is extremely dangerous. Enemies can melt you extremely fast in this zone. So if you're running solo, it might be worth it to turn squad fill on, because if you do end up going down, you can just bleed out and then you'll respawn as long as the rest of your team stays alive. Just an extra layer of protection for you. Of course, you might have to deal with teammates and people in comms and all that kind of stuff, but it's worth it to not lose a character. So next, let's talk about some weapon upgrade tips, starting with command centers. Those are the places that contain weapon jailbreak stations, and that's how you upgrade the rarity of your weapons. There's an HVT inside. You'll have to kill it. It is a special, in case you're also struggling with specials. You can go inside the command centers and kill the HVT in there for a special. I recommend upgrading your main weapon first, and then you can grab a secondary weapon out of one of the boxes. It'll be the same rarity as whatever command command center you just completed. But then you want to upgrade your melee weapon as soon as you possibly can. And I also think your melee weapon should be the first weapon that you upgrade to legendary. And I say that because your melee weapon is going to be the most consistent thing in your loadout. So upgrading it to the highest tier first, it's a good option to keep consistent high damage on you at all times, because you can clear an entire command center with just your knife and invisibility, because it's that strong. You literally just land on the ground, pop your invisibility, open the door, sprint to the boss, knife him a few times, he's dead. And then from there you can look in a weapons case, try and find a weapon real quick to clear the rest of it out, or upgrade whatever your main weapon is. Whatever the case, upgrading your knife is extremely useful. Also, just a little min-max tip: if you finish both weapons in a match, you can find a new one in several different places, like command centers for instance, but you can also find them in safecracker activities, prime target activities, surprise shipment activities, killing elites. They'll usually also drop weapons cases. But if both weapons are finished, swap your secondary weapon first, because if you swap your primary one but then you don't finish that one, well then you can't bring in a new one in your primary because you're already working on one in your primary. I hope that makes sense. But just to maximize the amount of weapons that you can possibly get done in a match, you always want to make sure that whatever primary weapon you have on you when you exfil is done with the camos, so you can load back in with a new weapon every single time. You can also tell which weapon is your primary weapon by looking at this little widget here. It can bug out and swap your weapons, but like 99% of the time this will be correct. Your primary weapon will have whatever damage tier you're at the top, and your secondary will be at the bottom. If you don't have a damage tier at all, I don't really know how to tell which is your primary or secondary. Like if you're on controller, for example, if you're on mouse and keyboard, you can just hit switch to primary weapon, whatever your keybind for that is. Usually it's 1, but if you're on controller, I don't know exactly if there's a way or not, but just know that on this widget, the top is your primary and the bottom is your second. The final tip I have for you is that your character combat rating is your best source of damage, so don't risk your character dying for a weapon rarity upgrade. You can clear a tier 3 command center with a gray weapon if you have max combat rating. You're that strong, so don't be stupid with a max character and die for something that you technically don't even really need. Obviously you'll need it for later things, but you get what I'm saying. And there we go. That is all the tips I have for you today. I try to keep it as short and succinct as possible. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you have any better strats, leave them down in the comments. If you learned anything new, please leave a like. It will definitely help the channel, and subscribe for more Black Ops 7 content. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.